Welcome back to another episode of Not for Broadcast. We are back from our trip to Denmark and to Sweden. We did Blast, we did Dream League. We came back. Some of us came back sooner than others. I got stuck in Amsterdam for a full day. I did tell you, Avery, I had a bad feeling, didn't I?
No, you had a terrible layover that you put on yourself, so you deserve it.
There's
You have no
literally
sympathy
only
for me.
there's only one flight going from Amsterdam to Los Angeles, and it's a early morning flight. And the fog delayed things by like 2.5 hours. Like it doesn't matter what my layover is at that point
Whatever,
in
man.
time.
That's on you. It's on you, brother.
Anyway, so the result is that I was supposed to cast the rest of the finals with Avery, and that did not happen. So let's talk about the Dream League finals first. Avery, we had Tundra versus Spirit in the finals. It was an excellent 3 games. We went into game 4. Spirit was up by a significant amount. It looked like it was going to be a 3-1, and then they got DDoSed. Not a traditional DDoS where your internet is being attacked, but they were being DDoSed through the Steam client. Still don't know the details of that exactly, but it seems to be some permutation of apparently Quinn said that sometimes streamers get it where they get mass sent guild invites. So it's probably some permutation of that where it prevented Spirit from being able to play Dota at all. And ESL made the ruling that they would not DQ Spirits, but instead they would delay the game to happen on Tuesday, which I was still in Amsterdam for. So you and Owen casted it. So how was that?
Oh, it was great, man. It's really nice to work with a real play-by-play for once instead of having to pull the slack of 2 people. I don't know why Owen dressed in a full suit and tie though. That really
I
caught me off
saw
guard.
that. I
Like
was
a
like, what
beach
is it?
blue. I was like, what is going on? Like, I don't know where that. I've never seen him get that dressed up for anything.
That's the only time you'll ever see him fully dressed up in his suit is TI finals, or if he's casting from his bedroom, apparently.
Yeah, I guess so. So that caught me off guard, but I mean, it was like 40 minutes and done, so there wasn't much to talk about. Games were just stomps. One stomp one way, one stomp the other, and then we were done. Justice was served, and we can all move on in life.
And by justice, you mean
Spirit
that
won.
the betters lost their money?
No, I don't care about the betters. I just think Spirit deserved to win, so that's justice to me.
Because they were going to win game 4, or just because
Yeah.
you're a Spirit fanboy and you'll always back Spirit no matter what?
Why can't it be both, man? I think they were playing better in that grand finals. I would have been really sad if they had lost because I think they were the better team in that BO5. Like anything can change, but at the point of the DC, they were playing better, I think. So justice.
I will say, Avery, we both had Spirit on our power ranking of to win TI. We both had them at first place. I'm not sure if this result is a good sign or a bad sign. I don't know if they've peaked too early or if this is a sign of things to come. But the Spirit's return to dominance does seem to be perhaps on the rise. They kind of scraped it out getting to that finals, but once they got to that finals, they were the normal monsters that they become in best of 5s.
That's why I rank them as number 1 to win TI, because if they get there, I think the odds that they win it are extremely high. Whereas for most other teams, if they get there, it's not nearly as one-sided.
Yeah, and that's without the psychological threat of Yotaro shaving his head. They just won that best of 5 through normal Dota playing. So
that's right. I mean, this guy's not even in full form yet. I think they were playing at like 75%. So good luck to the rest of the teams out there. You're absolutely fucked. I'll see you at TI. I know who I'm going to bet on. Not that I'm a betting man, but if I were.
And if you were a betting man, would you just take your losses, or would you DDoS a team in order to prevent the result going against you?
Nah, fuck these DDoSers, man. They've always been animals. They always will be animals.
Yeah.
Go fucking fuck with another game, dude. Fuck off. It's disgusting. They deserve to be sent to prison.
Yeah, that's anything else you want to say on the DDoSing?
There you go.
There you go. That's
That's
perfect.
what I have to say
Perfect.
on that. I think this is a very easy opinionated piece, you know.
Yeah.
Fuck the DDoSers. Let us play the game. That's it. There's no other valid opinion on any of this. So
Okay. I don't think there's too much to say on it either. I think I assume you were fine with ESL delaying the game because I mean, the
yeah, for
situation just
sure.
seemed out of Spirit's control.
I don't understand all these people that are like they should have just like DQ'd him. Blah. Like you never negotiate with terrorists. You know that's what
Yeah.
these guys want you to do. They want you to DQ someone. That's why they're DDoSing it in the hope that you'll run out of time and get DQ'd, and then they will win by forfeit. No, fuck that. You just stall this shit until you can play it out. Like fuck those clowns. Because otherwise, if you DQ somebody based on a DDoS, you're just incentivizing people to DDoS you in the future because they know they can get a certain result out of it, right? So like fuck that. I don't get what the argument for that is. It's just salty people, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was like a general push at some point in time that admins were being too lenient and lazy with, you know, instituting like pushing the rule book, right? There would be a rule book, but they wouldn't follow the rule book very well. And I get it. You know, admins were not the most empowered and they did not want to be the bad guy. You know, did not want to end a match by disqualifying a team. I understand that. It should have happened more in the past, but I also don't get the people who are like hardliners of like you must follow what's in the rule book 100% because there's also always a line that says the tournament can make whatever fuck decision that they want. First of all, so that is in the rule book. But second of all, it's like why would you ever want that? Why can't we just make common sense decisions and leave that up to people whose literal jobs are making common sense decisions? You know, we should at least try. But I don't know, man. It's the same thing with the smoke bug, right? It wasn't in the rule book, so you could do whatever the fuck you want. just uh just a different swing.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I just don't negotiate with terrorists. I feel like this is another pretty clear cut case. Like, why would you make any decision that incentivizes people to DDoS more events in the future? You should make the decision that incentivizes them least by not giving them what they want. It's that simple. I don't even like give a fuck what the rules are. I think they're irrelevant in this situation because you're being attacked. So like rules go out the window, you know? You do whatever preserves the sanctity of the tournament and preserves sanctity of future tournaments to the highest degree. That's my kind of opinion on it. And if you're going to take some backlash for it, because like you didn't follow the rules, like whatever, who gives a fuck? You know, it's like bigger things at stake. That's how I
Yeah.
kind of see it.
Okay. Well, that is the recent drama. We had our tournaments. We had some outcomes. I don't think there's really anything too much to say about the outcomes of Blast or Dream League. Besides that, it seems like the scene is continuing to be having more and more parity between the top like 6 teams. Feels like there's a lot of different teams who can win a tournament, which is nice to see. Chimera was probably the biggest story coming out of Dream League. They actually made it all the way into playoffs, which was pretty crazy for a team that was disbanded to make it that far. Why do you think that was even possible? Because apparently I heard so I recorded all chat with Aiden and Quinn yesterday, and apparently like Aiden Liquid like scrimmed a team during Dream League that was not Chimera that Panto was playing on. He was actively scrimming with other teams while playing for Chimera. Which obviously the team is disbanded, so of course he's going to be doing that. But it's just so funny that you could be doing that and still succeeding at the tournament. How is that even possible?
I think one, they had no pressure on them because they're already disbanded, which
Yeah.
does help. You're basically underdog in every single series, which is like insane advantage. Classic OG move. And the other thing is, I think they were just ahead on patch. I think they just had better hero picks and player profiles in terms of what the Hawk played and what these guys were playing supports wise. That they just played a lot of teams that were just fucking picking trash. So like, you combine those two things, You don't have to play that much better if you're already going into most games like 60-40.
Mm.
And they also were playing pretty good. So stars align, you know. Sometimes teams are just making runs. You combine those three factors. Yeah, they made a decent play. I think the bottom half of the teams at Dream League were like very beatable though. Like you have new patch, they don't know what they're doing. It's a very top heavy tournament, so they incur a lot of losses, so they're already demoralized. So yeah, I think you combine all those. I don't think it's too surprising they made a run. I'm not sure what like percentage I would give them if you run that simulation again. Maybe it's only like 40 or 50%, but I'm not super surprised. I think when you looked at what they were playing and how they were playing, man, there's still a lot of teams that are just behind on how to play this map. I don't really understand it, but that's life, I guess.
Um. So one of the things that you said is that, like, I remember at Dream League you said this team is obviously doing something that other teams should be looking at. You think it's just mostly hero picks, or do you think that do you think they figured out anything about the new patch? Is what I'm asking.
I mean, they're just mini Pari Vision.
Okay. As in the ghost shoving, or
Yeah, you just pick a bunch of fucking ghost shove and you shove this huge fucking map in, and like no one can ever catch you because the map's too fucking big. And then at some point you just get an objective because it's so much easier for you to group and like do this tormentor. And even if you can't do the tormentor, you don't lose that much because you're constantly just farming everything. And it's likely someone has to respond to you on a bad side of the map, so you just go tormentor. Like I don't know why teams are so stubborn about trying to play like this old school, the older patch style of like that you pick these heroes that just want to go fight, but you'll never get the fucking fight. You'll never get it. I genuinely think it's part of why like Falcons are suffering. I think it's part of why Gaiman is super suffering. I think it's why Liquid was pretty hit or miss because these teams are playing the style from some of the previous patches where you can group up a lot more and you're not getting punched as hard and you're just like fighting around mid. And the thing about this is like the heroes that used to do that got nerfed. So one, you're kind of just playing with weaker heroes in general. But two, you get punished way harder now for doing this because there's way more valuable objectives that are easier to take in this new patch, especially Tormentor. Like Tormentor skewed this a lot. If you just go skirmish around mid, it better translate into Tormentor. If it doesn't, you don't really gain anything in a way. You can extract like a 3k gold advantage out of mid, but if the enemy just goes to Tormentor and does it, it's completely nullified. So you have to translate it more. And if you can't play the lanes and take early towers, then you don't really get anywhere. I think the wisdom shrines are like guaranteed split 2 now. Like I think it's a lot harder to contest wisdom shrine even if you snowball mid. Before we saw like, okay, you snowball mid, your mid ember goes, takes 7-minute wisdom rune, you know. These things are like not there as much anymore. Mid is there's no bottle refills. It's harder to snowball mid because of that, right? Your supports are not TPing mid and refilling as much. Like all these things add up and it basically hurts that older style a lot. Whereas I think it helps this side lane style of like just pick 2 really strong side lane cores that can stand on the lane forever, defend their towers, push enemy towers. We saw a lot of teams have a lot of success taking the enemy off lane tier 1 pretty early.
Yeah.
In fact, the last game of this finals that we casted, we saw the Radon Clinks come out again. And part of that game was they went mid very early and ganked the Invoker because I think Invoker is still super susceptible to hero. And
yeah,
they
ganked him back to back, right?
Yes.
They killed him, he TP'd back, they killed him again.
But if you look at what was happening in this game while that's going on, the Clinks took the offlane tower solo because he's like can stand on the lane and push it in versus the Beast, and the Beast had to jungle. And on the other side, it was what was Collapse playing in that game? He was playing Mars, I think. Something he also just pushed his lane in and took the tower. So even while you're skirmishing mid, they took all 3 tier 1s by 11 minutes. And in the older patch, I think you would have gotten away with this more because 33 Beastmaster would have just been doing ancients and killing ancient stacks and maybe been able to defend his tier 1 a little bit better. There's no second ancient stack there. Yeah. They lose all their tier 1s by 11 minutes. Chances of them contesting Tormentor from that position is basically like 0%. You're just fucked. And I think that is the style of fast game you have to play now. It cannot be we go gank mid, we try lane mid, and our two other cores are jungling. Because then you'll get what happened in that other game in the finals where you had the 33 Abaddon who like solo killed the Clinks in that one game and took their tower. And I guarantee you, whatever was happening fucking in that game, like that is going to win Tundra that game because they're going to do Tormentor 15 because they have that tower advantage in the lane. This offlaner is snowballing. He's pushing the wave in. The enemy Clinks is jungling super slow. It's just so much better for you. And so that is, I think, the new style teams have to adjust to. And some of them are just super slow. Some of them were doing it by default. Maybe they don't even realize it. It's just working for them. And I think Chimera was in that category because they picked these like zoo offlaners for the Hawk that are really powerful early lane shovers and really good at taking tier ones. So by default, they were kind of doing a lot of these things. And it just innately skewed games to their advantage because like you have some offlane Enigma or offlane Furion or Bristleback constantly pushing the wave, constantly hitting this tier one. They're gate ganking for it. They're inevitably going to get Tormentor. These heroes are good at doing it early. And the enemy team's playing like, some fucking Tide Hunter or some fucking beast that's just going to the fucking ancient camp and sitting there and losing his tier one. It's like, yeah, maybe you're a better team than Chimera, but your chances to win this game just got skewed by like 30% off this one lane, this one way the lane's going. So that's what I saw. And I think that's another reason they were successful. And I don't know. Like, I feel like there's some really stubborn teams in Dota right now. I'm not sure why. They just refuse to give up on some of these stylistic things that worked for them, or they believe they'll still work, even though a lot about the game has conceptually changed. Like economy wise and positioning of objectives. That stuff changes a lot of the value of heroes and what you're trying to do in the early game. So I don't know why we're not seeing more risk or like thinking outside the box or adaptation in different styles, and we're still seeing teams do the same shit they've been doing for like the last 3 years. Like I refuse to believe the game has changed that little.
It
So
might
I don't
be
know.
might be a bit of what we have talked about quite a few times at this point in time, that like the team specialization and what they're best at, if that is the way you win your meta, your TI, your whatever, then it's harder to adjust than teams 10 years ago that always had to adapt, always had to like reinvent themselves whenever a patch dropped.
I mean, I'll give you the best example of that tournament, I think. To me, it's Liquid. I don't know what. Maybe Liquid is just really slow to change, and like we've talked about before, they're a slow build up team. I don't even think they played that bad, honestly, in
Mhm.
Dream League. I think they were playing okay, but I will tell you, their chances to win a lot of the games in that league were like minus 30% purely because of what they were picking Saberlight.
Mm.
That's what I think. That's my kind of assessment. Like what they were picking for their 3 and 4. And it includes Boxy's hero, but I think Boxy's hero is like they're gonna adjust that based on what the offlaner is. I don't fault that as much. I think this Saberlight guy is just playing fucking trash. Like what the fuck is Primal Beast in this meta?
You're
Primal
playing
is
trash heroes now.
yeah.
Not saying he's playing bad, but he's
No, but
playing
it,
bad
it
heroes.
contributes.
Sure.
Like if I'm picking Saberlight heroes in this tournament, I'm picking Enigma, I'm picking Darkseer, I'm picking I don't know, fucking Visage, Bristleback, the Beast is like I'm picking this shit, and they're picking like these fucking primal beasts, and I think they played like a fucking Tide Hunter game. I don't remember exactly what they were playing for him. I guess I can look it up right now.
Yeah, I mean, I see Night Stalker, Dawnbreaker, Mars.
Yeah, Mars I think is extremely difficult to execute. You have to be like really popping off to play that hero.
Tide, Sand King. Oh, there's a Darkseer, Beastmaster,
Oh, the
Mars.
Dawnbreaker I think is also just fucking low. This
What's wrong
Knight's
with the Dawnbreaker though? If the whole meta is more about dominating your safe lane or your side lanes, she can be good at that. And you're saying it's a big map. Like, isn't the global potential of that hero? Don't you want
I
Furions,
just think
Dawnbreakers,
I just think
Specters?
that hero's kind of weak and she's not an objective taker and she's kind of a bad lane shover. And I think she doesn't
Hmm.
win a lot of her matchups. I think it's just been underwhelming.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Okay. I got you.
I think some of it was gameplay too. Like the problem for Liquid is they were just losing a lot of their off lanes gameplay wise. So that really hurts you. But I like cannot believe we did not see Saberlight play Enigma once, which is a hero we see him play a lot. I can't believe we didn't see him play Darkseer more. I can't believe we didn't see him play like basically whatever the fuck DM is playing, you know? Like what did
Sure.
DM play this event? He played Darkseer, Bristle, the offlane Terrorblade, Night Stalker, more Bristle, more Darkseer, Enigma. Like this is
And
basically
I'm
what he
sure
played.
he would have played more Enigma if it wasn't banned as much
Yeah,
as I
100%.
assumed it got banned against him a lot.
So I don't know. I'm like very in that category. This Night Stalker is also like a very interesting hero, but I'm not super sold on him fulfilling this concept. I think it's just a really strong hero right now, and if you play well around it, he can do some crazy things. But that one's more. That's like a higher level execution thing because you have to play around his timings really well. But some
Yeah.
teams were doing that, and
I
it makes that
also
hero pretty
assume
scary.
Vision is just better in a new map.
Yeah, probably, especially
So.
at the start. So I don't know. I was like really lost on what some of these teams are like trying to do. Like they're just picking heroes. They go to some side lane. It's like a losing lane on paper. They lose it slightly. This like guy goes and jungles. He loses his tier 1. Like this cannot. I don't. There's no way this is the game plan. Maybe you're just getting outplayed. But I feel like on paper that it was set up too many times to do that. And yeah, I just think teams with the stronger side lanes generally dominated this tournament. I think mid was almost irrelevant.
Okay.
More relevant than I've seen in a long time in terms of like, not that you can have a bad mid player and win, but the teams that played through mid, I think, got demoted versus the teams that have stronger side laners.
Right.
Which
You're
is
talking
another
about the
reason.
supports and even cores rotating into the mid lane to try and gank or bail out their mid laner and take the mid tower. You feel like that is less consequential because the early timings, Tormentors at 15 minutes, that was obviously a huge one for this last patch. We got a B patch that nerfed it, made Tormentor give a lot less gold, but it was obviously very important there. And then I think you're talking about taking the tier 1 tower. I think it is kind of interesting that there's an ancient camp on both sides. I think taking the enemy offlane tower, I don't know if that necessarily lets you get into the triangle and farm that ancient camp that's there, right? But if you take the enemy safe lane tower, you definitely get access to that ancient camp that's behind that tower. If you keep your safe lane tower, then your carry can farm that ancient camp. But if you take the enemy safe lane tower, that becomes your offlaners that he can take, and that seems pretty powerful. Alongside the fact that it's right next to Tormentor.
I just feel taking these side lane towers is way more valuable than the mid tier 1. And so if you're picking and playing to do that, I think you're going to have a better time. I think Tundra and Spirit are two teams that play a lot around the side lanes, especially their side lane cores.
Sure.
Like their
I
side
mean, you
lane
got
cores
33
winning
on
lane
one side, Yatoro on the other. You're going to play around your side lane quite a bit.
Yep. And so, I don't know. If you look at what they were picking, I think it's a lot in this category. Tundra also played a lot of Darkseer, for example. They played a lot of Magnus, a lot of Bristleback, a lot of mid laners for BZM that were kind of just farmers, to be honest. Like heroes that just kind of sat there, farmed, and scaled and came on later. Invoker, they played like 6 times in their last 10 games. Leshrac, I think, fit that category. The Ember, I think, is one of the exceptions. But honestly, a lot of people were kind of just playing sitting mid with the Ember and like hitting tower with Orb of Corrosion. Storm Spirit, we saw come back a little bit towards the end of this event. Another just like mid farmer hero. Queen of Pain. So I don't know. I feel like this what you get in mid almost didn't matter too much as what you were getting in these side lanes. And of course, 33 is going to play all of his heroes, which just do this by default. So you kind of get that naturally. But I think Chimera were just like ahead of this because their team setup is they have like the ultimate mid farmer in Lorinov. That's all that guy does anyway. So he's going to play Storm. He's going to play Lesh. He's going to play Ember, whatever. And he's just going to race. And then they have these 2 side laners that just played all these lane shovers, right? Naga Siren, Furion on both, Bristle on both, Enigma, Visage, like that was literally their hero pool anyway, so it just worked. I think they just had an advantage over all these other teams. They were taking more tier ones early. They were dominating side lanes harder. They naturally had the mid carry farmer. It's just like easy meta for them.
And as a result, they got fourth, getting beat up by Spirit 2-1, who then went on to beat Parvision. Then obviously talked about how they beat Tundra. Did you like where the game was at with the new patch? Did you like the changes that you saw? Did you like Roshan being back in the middle of the map? I think that's a great change.
Yeah, for sure. I think it should have happened a long time ago. Valve's just stubborn. I liked most of the changes, honestly. I thought they were all pretty good. I think they're all conceptually good. Some of them are obviously tuned kind of poorly, but I think that's like natural in any new patch, so I don't really care about that.
Sure.
I think conceptually everything makes a lot of sense to me. I think the new wisdom mechanics are better. I think the Lotus mechanics better. I think the new Tormentor is better, or at least different and more interesting. Maybe not better, but it's something different and new, and it's not bad, so it's like fine. It needed to be tuned a little bit. It was probably too heavy, but I think it created a lot of interesting early fights, and it incentivized a lot of early team fighters and clump abusers, which I think have been out of the meta for a while. So I'm kind of for that. I think Roche in the middle is better. I actually think the first Roche needs to be tuned up. I think it's worth too little. That's my biggest complaint. Otherwise, I think it's fine.
You wanted to give more gold or experience? Or
more gold.
Like you're fine with just, it's still just being an Aegis drop on the first round?
I'm fine with that. I just think it should give more gold.
Okay.
I think it's worth too little for the amount of time you have to spend doing it for how strong it is, basically. Like, I don't think it's that easy to do the first Roche, to be honest. Like, really early in the game.
Sure.
Which means if you want to make people do it between 20 to 25, which I think is the normal time, I think it should be worth a little bit more. Because first Roche, I feel, is worth less than the first Tormentor, but you're doing it like 10 minutes later on average.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't think the first Aegis means anything anymore in Dota.
Yes,
I think it's kind of
agreed.
irrelevant. So, like, just up the gold on it, right? I think most teams would honestly sell Aegis if they could. Like, they would sell the first Aegis. If you could sell it for like 3,000 team gold,
yeah,
I think people would 100% do it every time. So that's where I'm like, you have to either up Aegis on the first drop or you up the gold on the first drop. That's how I kind of see it. The first Roche, I think, is just it's just bad.
Yeah.
You're doing it to accelerate the second one. Like, that's why you're doing it.
Sure. So we had the B patch, and I assume you were happy with some of the adjustments that were made there. The Tormentor is harder to take. It gives you less team gold because it was just given way too much before, and then some adjustment on some items, especially the neutral items that were obviously not very well balanced. I mean, it's just like you put in new items, that's just what's going to happen. So we saw the same neutral HP items being taken by every single player on every single team, like Galeguard.
Yeah. I think all the bounces in the B patch were pretty obvious. It was just tune down all the HP buffers, the Essence Ring, the Galeguards, the Brawny enchantments, tune down all the like overpicked heroes that were just doing too much damage with certain spells, the Abaddon, the Lifestealer, HP gain, right? This kind of stuff I think was pretty obvious. So yeah, no complaints there. Something I was going to complain about, but I don't remember.
Okay. Well, I don't really have anything to say about the patch outside of that, so that's kind of it for me.
Oh, no matchmaking changes. That's what I was going to complain about. Like, what the fuck are we doing? I don't understand. Is this literally just something in the works for like 3 years that it's just like, it's so hard to... Why is there no seasonal reset at this point? Like, are they that greedy for the double downs? Which I don't understand, because why would they be greedy to make money off double downs when they got rid of the compendium? Like, they obviously don't care about making that much money off Dota. I understand the effort put into double downs for what they return economically is probably infinitely higher than what the compendium was. But like, you can also just reset and then just keep selling them. Like, honestly, people will bitch for a day, but Are they going to suddenly stop buying them? No. So I think it's irrelevant. I don't understand why there's no matchmaking change. I think Immortal matchmaking is unplayable. I think it has been for some time. Maybe they just don't care and they're just never going to change it because people are just playing it anyway. So it's like, fuck it. But
yeah, they might have the
that's a little
stats that saying,
disappointing.
like the same number of games are being played, same number of like concurrent players
Yeah,
and stuff.
that's
So
what I have a
like
feeling like it is. I
people
feel
are
like it's
gonna
in that.
complain they hated the old matchmaking system. They hate this matchmaking system. There's no matchmaking system they won't hate. So
Yeah, basically. I think it's like put a lot of work into something that people are going to hate anyway that improves the lives of like 10% of the player base. Not worth the time. Better to just make events and do other stuff, which, yeah, that's fine by me. But at least for me, that Immortal matchmaking is still dead. Like I have no will to play solo ranked matchmaking, especially on NA servers. On Europe, it's playable, but on NA, it's completely fucked. And I have a feeling it's the same for most of the marginal servers. Like I'll just play with friends, right? Because the game is fun. It's just like you don't get to play the game in the solo rank, so it's unlucky, I guess.
yeah,
Just sad.
yeah, too many double down abusers, too many actors. Well, I mean, I still think that it would be possible to have the immortal matchmaking system the way it is if you had harsher behavior punishments for the game throwing and stuff, but obviously that has been a battle that has been lost a decade ago, so
Yeah, I'm kind of over it, but that was the one thing
yeah.
I was like kind of surprised not to see anything done or even a seasonal reset because I just don't even think that changes anything, but it would give the placebo of change, like
Yeah,
with all
yeah,
this
yeah.
inflated MMR. So I don't know. It is kind of surprising, but I'm sure they have something in the works. Whether it'll ever get released or when is a big
Yeah, that's
question,
the
but
thing,
like,
right? Is like it might be one of those Valve things that they're like, we're making a next level matchmaking
yeah,
system and they're tinkering with it for 2 years and
yeah.
so all right, well, we got more tournaments coming up. But you and I are gonna be off for like a month. Um but we got like PGL and stuff that we'll talk about when the time comes. But other than that, I think that's kind of it. Anything else you want to talk about?
Well, that's it for this episode. That's all you have.
Yeah. Oh, I got a question. Hold up. Also, the episode is still 32 minutes. What do you mean? What do you mean that's all we get just because it's not an
I thought you
hour
were
and
gonna
a
have a bit
half like
more. I thought you were
a
gonna have a bit more.
normal
That's
episode?
all.
All right. Episode question. Where's my question? I lost it. Oh, I see. I just said I kind of want to ask which series you both casted is most enjoyable for you for every recent tournament. Oh boy, that's a bad question to ask me. I mean, for Dream League, it would have been the finals, right? That was a great finals to cast until it stopped. Blast, I don't even remember. I don't remember that tournament at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. Anything spirits in. I like casting Tundra too. I think they're a fun team to watch. Something's always interesting about their games.
Sure.
They're high skill players. Same with Spirit. Um,
We casted Nigma versus Parivision.
yeah, I like casting Nigma too. They're fun.
They're fun. They're a fun team to cast, actually. Outside of their aura, they are actually like a fun team gameplay wise.
I hate casting.
We already have a full episode of who you hate casting.
Yeah, that one goes without saying.
Also, Aiden's got beef with you and me.
Why?
By proxy, but well, you said you wanted to be number one on the list. I don't know if you ever heard that.
No, I said I was surprised I wasn't. There's a difference. There's a difference.
Well, you tried hard to be number one on the list.
Am
And
I one?
he said he's coming for us. He said, fuck
Okay.
Avery first and foremost, fuck you second most. So
That's fair.
congratulations. Yeah.
I respect Liquid again. They've earned my respect.
You know what? You know what's funny? He said SVG content S tier. SVG casting my games F tier.
Well, it sounds like he's watching them though, so that's
He's
a win in my
He's
book.
watching
You know
this
what I'm
episode
saying?
right now. You could say hi to him.
No, that's okay. Fuck him. I mean, honestly, I was about to say, I genuinely, before you brought that up,
Uh-huh.
I was about to say I've actually enjoyed casting the Liquid games recently because I feel like
Why?
they've
You
hit.
seem the most frustrated with them, and they're. You just talked about
That's
how you
why.
felt like they're
That's
not.
why.
Why?
Because I feel like they're at rock bottom right now. Not that they're that bad, but they're like at the bottom of where they should be. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like we're all watching this, and you can literally see that they should be doing better than they are. It's
Yeah.
so easy to see, and then they're just not. So it's kind of interesting to me as a caster. It's like, wow, this is really weird, you know. And then you get those games where it's like they pick Mickey Furion, and it's like super hype game, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this team is fucking awesome. And then they have these other games, they just get shit stomped in 15. And then it's just like, what is going on in this team? You know, it's bizarre to me. I think they're the most volatile team right now, which makes them interesting. Unlike
Sure.
Gaiman,
Wow.
we're just consistently mediocre. So Liquid are actually back on my like good cast. Like I'm actually down to cast some Liquid games right now because the volatility makes them super interesting. If they were just terrible, they wouldn't be that interesting. You know?
Okay.
I'm like invested. I want to see what happens to this team next. Because
Yeah.
I genuinely like watching them when they play well. They are a fun team to watch when they're playing well.
Aiden did talk a bit about the struggles they're going through and said that they're just you know, there's too many holes. They're trying to plug up all the holes, and they don't have necessarily an understanding of what the underlying like change that needs to happen, because it feels like every game it's a different reason why it went wrong, which he says usually implies that there is a fundamental like underlying reason that you're not good in the patch and you just don't understand that. And so, you know, like every game there's just different things that crop up, but you aren't getting to the heart of it. You think that's true? Or are they just unlucky?
I mean, I cannot speak to a fundamental issue within a team without being in the team environment. I think it's impossible.
Sure, but I mean, have you never experienced that on one of your teams where it feels like things are going wrong, but it's always a different thing?
Honestly, I mean, I think more often than not, it just means you're like trying to play the patch the wrong way, but you can't realize it because you're too lost in the sauce, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that's what he was saying is like,
But
they
it's
don't
usually
understand.
simpler. It's simpler in the end than people think, but getting there is not simple because you're stuck in like this. You're stuck in the ways of thinking about the game that you can't realize, and you have to get out of them, which is really difficult unless you have someone just completely outside the bubble tell you something and you're willing to go with them, which is almost never happens. I mean, I'll tell them what the fuck their problem is.
Liquid, if you want a fourth coach.
Yeah, you know, I'll give you a fifth coach opinion. It's a fucking off lane. I've said it a billion goddamn times. But it's not the off lane in terms of how Reddit says it. We're like, oh, Saberlight's just shit. Like, Saberlight's not just shit. That's not why I'm saying it's their off lane. It's their off lane in terms of I think they just I think that's the largest gap in meta understanding is what they're picking and how they're playing the off lane. And it's some executional stuff. I think the synergy between Boxy and Saberlight is not as good as it was between him and 33, but that took them a year to build. So like, I'm not going to critique that, right?
Sure.
I'm sure they're aware of that too. That just takes time. But I just think what they're picking for their 3 and 4 is just behind a lot of other people. That's all.
Him and
I think that kills a lot of their games.
Him and Quinn both said that that their teams operated under like a system at some point in time, right? And that system is that helped them thrive may also be the system that is limiting them. Like they have to do something that is different.
100%. That's what I talked about earlier in this episode. I think that old system we're slowly seeing it dying. It's not 100% dead. These things they're not black and white, but we're seeing pieces of it get devalued over time, right? As happens with any system in Dota. And that's the pro and cons of systems. They can make you really strong, but once they start to erode, they become constraints, and you have to find a way to break and move past them, and very few teams historically have been able to do that. I also find it ironic that Quinn is talking about how successful their system made him when I tried to build a system on my teams with Quinn forever, and it was the one thing he hated and revolted against the most. He viewed systems as like the worst thing you can do in Dota. He refused to play under any sort of system. So congrats to him, I guess. He grew up. It's great for me, but there's some irony there. I'm sure the circumstances are a lot different. He's going to hate me blanket statementing that, but systems they're a very double-edged sword in Dota. Honestly, I don't really like them
operate
either,
on systems.
What do I think? What
do you think all top tier teams operate on systems, and the teams that are successful are just having systems that fit the meta and the patch better?
I mean, that depends on your definition of a system. Is a system you consciously forcing yourself to do things every game? Is a system you unconsciously doing the same thing every game? Is a system you fall into patterns because of what you play, but you're not forcing that? It's just what you play, right? Like, I just presented 3 different definitions of a system that could all be construed as a system, but are they the same thing? I think it's a very hard thing to quantify in Dota. I think there are definitely some certain top teams that have a very set system that they want to play in. That's like rules, right? Governing rules. The ultimate systemer in Dota of all time is Bulba, for sure. That guy was a huge system creator. He believed in it a lot, particularly early game. First 15, 20 minutes is generally when Dota is the most structured. I mean, that guy at certain points for teams had like literal rules. 4 minutes, you go here. 6 minutes, you go here. 8 minutes, we're doing this rotation. Like, he would literally have a playbook on some teams. Kuroki was like that back in the day too. He was a big system guy. They had a very big system around Miracle, right? Prioritize Miracle, 4 protect 1, tri-lane the fuck out of Miracle every game, no matter where he goes. That's why we had that tri-lane mid for a while. It was part of the system. If Miracle wants to go mid for the matchup, they're going to tri-lane mid because you tri-lane for Miracle, Like, you do whatever it takes to guarantee that guy the best game possible, and he will carry you. That's the system. So
that's another system that has been broken at this point in time because they're winning games without Miracle.
Yes, and I think we still see echoes of that system and how they play and how they make decisions. But that system is long gone. It does not work anymore in any capacity. So I don't know. It's like, depends how you quantify this. I think Liquid and Gaimin definitely developed a system in the years where they were winning everything. I think Liquid more as a response to what Gaimin was doing, trying to fight them, right? And it was Quinn's system to some degree, I think, in terms of how to play mid and how to take advantage of mid. And it was a lot of stuff, honestly, that we had tried to develop on the teams when I played with him earlier, that I saw his ideas come to fruition. It wasn't like out of nowhere. He didn't suddenly have the ideas of how he wanted to play because he went to Europe. He always had those ideas. It's just now he could execute them. He had better teammates and a better environment and better execution. And it was a very powerful idea and a very powerful system. I knew it was strong back then too. We weren't good enough to execute at a level to win. But it was a system, for sure. And now that system is getting devalued with patch changes, and I don't know if they can adjust, to be honest, because Quinn is a super good player, but he also I've talked about this before, he based a lot of his game around certain skill sets. And if those skill sets get devalued, you end up kind of like Sumail, right? Like Sumail, it's not like he's a worse laner than he was, but the laning means less. So
that's where I was going to lead next, was that I guess I feel like there is a bit of a disconnect in my head of like the way things are versus the way they should be with these changes, right? So if theoretically side lanes become more of a focus, supports rotate less to mid, supports TP less to mid because you can't even refill the bottle, that leaves the mid laners more alone on an island, one-on-one. Doesn't that make their laning capabilities? Shouldn't this in a way be better for the skill-based mid laners, where they will get more of a pure 1v1 against their opponent with less interference from supports, whether it's theirs or the enemies, less bottle refilling, that sort of thing? Are aren't they going to be enabled? Isn't the skill matchup going to favor them more and more? And
Okay,
then,
so I think this is a really complicated idea in Dota, but my conclusion, this is my personal belief. I would be open to people debating it. My personal belief is the exact opposite. After studying Dota for a lot of time, I think it is the literal polar opposite. And this is some myth people have told themselves because it's some nostalgia bait. They
Mhm,
wish they were in the old days where they had Sumail, who was the largest skill gap player that has ever existed in Dota in terms of being able to outskill people mid. And you cannot use that as an example because it was so extreme. It's like putting Michael Jordan in a 1v1 against a 6-year-old. Like, yeah, he's gonna fucking dunk on this guy's ass to the point where he crumbles his fucking spine and he's dead. That doesn't mean that like you can just extrapolate from that, you know? So
mhm.
throw the Sumail example out the window.
Okay, that's fine.
Now, there are things that will value you having the better mid laner. One of them is if the game is more dependent on the outcome of mid. In other words, if you win mid, what degree does that increase your chance to win the game? In certain patches, I think it was higher than others. You know, when all of the ancient camps were around mid, I suspect it had to be higher because winning mid and taking the enemy mid tower opened up more farm and gave you more map control and did more stuff, right? Uh, that's a single example, but extrapolate that to anything: runes, map control, vision, rotation capability, timings. It's incredibly complex in the modern game of Dota because there's so many more factors. There's so many more timings. There's so many more itemizations. So one question is, you know, is the game more valuable now in terms of winning mid than it was in the past? You have to take that into account. The other factors, to what degree can you even win mid? Let's say you have the best mid laner in the world. I argue that the skill difference between him and the next guy is not honestly that big. I don't think it's like negligible, I think. If you take the best tier one mid versus the worst tier one mid in the top like 8 teams in the world, he's probably going to extract a 10-20% difference at most on average, right? And we're talking about the largest disparity. Is that enough to skew the game to something where you can play around it? Like, maybe, but I think it's gone down over time. The introduction of water runes, the introduction of heroes that can just push mid out and go farm jungle, the introduction of jungle camps that were pushed towards mid, the introduction of catch up and recovery mechanics in terms of assist gold, wisdom shrines, neutral items, all these things diminish your ability to extract a larger advantage of mid, even if you have a better laning skill set. And I think if you watch a lot of games, like most people do not get crushed mid, even in the really bad matchups, like the monkey versus the viper, the ember versus the huskar. These are the worst matches of all time. It is 100-0. You're going to lose them. But we've seen teams just win games where you play this matchup, right? We've seen Embers come out even net worth at 10 minutes versus Huskar because they go do other stuff or they go jungle. We've seen the TA's jungle versus the Viper. We've seen the monkeys just gank side lanes versus the Viper, right? Like, it's
Not
just
that niche
not as good.
game, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he got fucked. You're always going to have these games where you get fucked. But my
Yeah.
point is, on average, I think it's not as big as it used to be. Like
Okay.
it used to be, if you got crushed mid, there's no jungle to farm. There's no fucking runes to get. There's no neutral items to help you recover. There's no fucking like ideas about the game that are as good back then as they are now. So you just lose. Like you're just missing a hero. Nowadays, you're not really missing a hero. You know, Mallory Monkey is going to go gank your side lane twice. Like you're not just missing the mid. So I don't think it's that bad. Now to get back to the original point, which I think is the biggest factor here, is if you're isolating mid, does it improve the value you're extracting from being able to win mid? And my claim is that I think it's the exact opposite. And my argument for this is that I think if you have a mid laner who's winning mid, your goal should be to translate that into getting as much value out of that as you can and improve your chances to win as much as you can. And how do you do that? You use that guy to enable the rest of your team, which means you go to him and you fuck the enemy mid and you bait the enemy into coming to try and defend that guy, and then you kill their supports. That is the Quinn system in a nutshell. And the second that happens, the game is fucking over. The second the enemy gets baited into that trap and they fuck up a little and they die, the game is over because they can't win that fight. It's what we saw in game 5 of Spirit versus Tundra. They had Ember. It was Ember versus Invoker, right? Good matchup for Ember. Laurel owned it. He outskilled the Invoker. We've seen BZM do better in that matchup, but on that day, he did not do that well. He's getting crushed CS. He has a level advantage. They rotate the supports mid. They kill the Invoker. They sit there. The Invoker TP's back. We're going to kill him again. What are you going to do, Tundra? You going to come defend this guy or not? Tundra feels pressured. They TP Shaker. Invoker dies. Shaker dies. Comes back a third time. They skirmish there again. At some point, they lose another support. They lose Invoker again. The game's fucking over. All the value, all the map control, the tower died. All this happened because they went to the hero that extracted the lane advantage and they used him to crumble the game. So that's like what you should do. I think it's a very optimal play in a lot of situations. Every game is different, but in a lot of situations, that's kind of what you're hoping is going to happen when you win mid. And the reason is because the alternative is the guy who wins mid leaves mid, and that's like really bad in a lot of games because it's just less valuable. You're giving recovery time to this mid guy who lost the matchup. He gets completely free lane, no pressure. He can still TP and counterplay you, which increases the value of his hero from a down position, right? Because counterplay is generally stronger than aggressive play, like under towers and stuff. By default, it's a slight advantage.
Sure.
So you're giving that guy potential to just come back completely. If you mess up the play, he's getting solo time. If you succeed in the play, you could get 2 supports, but maybe you die and he TPs in and kills you. His game recovers even more. He maybe gets free power and control. He maybe starts hitting your tower. The move is not that hard to read because like this mid laner just left. Most teams are better at reading that. And the most you're going to get out of this is like a gank that's going to split XP and gold amongst a bunch of dudes. And maybe you can translate it into objectives. Like that is where that move is valuable, is if you bring the guy to the side lane super early because he's super fat like an Ember, and you like kill 2 heroes, take their tower, take Wisdom Shrine, or some combination of this. Yeah, it's a good move. I'm not saying you can't make that move and be successful. It's good. But that's your best case scenario. And even that situation, I argue, is less valuable than just like crumbling the game through mid, which is why we saw Gaming and Liquid do this all the fucking time. And it's why it became the default for Gaming, because when you have Quinn was the best laner in the world and he's winning the mid lane. What do? You don't take him off the winning lane. You go to the winning lane and you fuck them there and you make them bring their supports there. And then their supports are going to feed because you have like level 7 Ember versus level 5 Invoker. It's a 0% chance to win that fight. It's guaranteed. It's super high average value. There's almost no risk if you execute it well. So like, I argue that putting these mids in a vacuum is kind of worse. Because if he's in a vacuum, then that guy has to make a risky move. He has to make one of these side lane moves to use his advantage.
So better to take the guaranteed play, which is to farm from the mid lane instead of going out and potentially wasting the advantage that you built up.
Yeah, I think in a lot of situations, that guy rather sit there, keep fucking the guy mid, hit his tower, and get the power in, than making a risky gank on a side lane that might work, might not, might be dependent on the game state, and could get counterplayed, right? And if that goes wrong, then the whole advantage is out the window. Whereas the move to mid is like, in theory, there's nothing opponents can really do if you execute it well. It's just in your control. If you execute it well and you do it properly, you're going to win the fight.
But now the mid lane is you're saying there's more value on the side lane, so now it's not even that incentive to go to mid in the first place.
Yeah, they're devaluing the like tri-lane mid shit, which makes sense because it was really strong for a long time. It's being devalued. Doesn't make it a bad play. You can still do this. It's just you're getting a little less for it, right? Like when you make this mid move and the enemy offlaner takes your safe lane tier 1, you get punished a little more for that because the Tormentor becomes a bit more valuable, right?
Yeah.
Or the Wisdom Shrine is a bit more valuable, or he gets to farm your Ancients. There's more gold and more objective value on these side lanes now, which inherently makes them more valuable, which makes the mid moves a little less valuable. So teams they're a little more going to leave mid in the vacuum instead of going there to gank, unless the game really calls for it. And that means you rather just have like some Ricer hero there. The Invoker, the Leshrac, the Storm Spirit, some guy just going to sit there for 10 minutes, outlane his opponent, get really fat, and come online in the mid game and maybe scale really well, you know? And the most you're going to get out of your mid laner being the higher skill laner is he's going to be 1,000 gold up, he's going to get the power runes, and maybe he's going to chip the enemy tier 1 down to half. That's what you're getting out of it now, as opposed to before, where like Quinn was beating this guy, and you went there, and all of a sudden you're up 10k net worth at 15 minutes because you just fucked them 3 times in mid and took their tower, right? Like, game was over. How many times have we seen that? The most recent was the game 5 that Spirit did it, and I think that was a draft decision. Like, they made the decision to do that in the draft to exploit the greed that Tundra had, which was really smart, but it was risky. If they had fucked that up, they could just lose that game, you know? And we don't see that every game. That's not something Spirit do every game. That's not a system where they're doing that every single time, right? That was a logical decision based on what they were seeing, which is why that team is cool. That team doesn't really operate on a system other than they like for Yatoro to get fat. That's like the most you can say their system is. They adapt a lot. They change their play style. They change their picks. They're very reactionary. They're like kind of old LGD. And so to me, that was why that game was cool. Not that we haven't seen any team do that. We've seen Gaiman do that exact game 1,000 fucking times. It was cool because they were in a tough position in the draft and they had to all in to win that game. And so they did. And then their chances to win suddenly skyrocketed, because they made that call and they executed it really well.
So you think they actually were on the losing position draft wise?
I think they were unfavored draft wise, like 3 picks in, based on how that series was going. But once they identified that Tundra got too greedy for their own good and that they were going to be able to punish it, their chances to win that game are like 80-20.
Sure.
Like, there's almost no shot they lose that game once they identify that and they play that way, because there's no recourse Tundra have. Like, Tundra cannot defend this mid invoker with Warlock and Shaker. It's not fucking possible.
Yeah,
and the game's going to crumble for them. But you have to make that read, you have to make that call, and you have to execute. Spirit could have been a team that did all that, but then never went mid. What if they just kept their supports on the sidelines the whole game and let the invoker sit mid, right? None of that could have happened. Tundra could have got away with it, and then suddenly you can't 5v5. There's a lot of teams that would have lost to that draft.
Yeah, suddenly they're playing their side lanes. They're getting sniped by Sunstrikes rather than BZM looking for a Sunstrike and dying under his tower, not realizing that he was being dove because he was looking for a Sunstrike.
So that's why I was like iffy in that draft. Are they going to identify this weakness? And I called it in the draft. I'm like, if they do this, they're going to win. But are they going to do it? But Spirit's a really good team, and they made that call and they went for it, and the risk pays off, and they have a very, very favorable game because they identify that. But it's not a system-based decision. That's my point. They're not doing that because they think it's the best way to play the meta. They're not doing that because they think it's the best way for their team to play. They're doing it because their read in the draft is they can exploit this weakness in Tundra's lineup really hard, and it gives them a really good chance to win. So they do it. Their system is winning in a nutshell. What gives us the best chance to win this game in this draft now, right? Which is why they'll pick stuff like the Bane or the unconventional Clinks or stuff, right?
Sure.
Because they feel like it gives them the best chance to win this game now based on what they're seeing, what they understand. It's the opposite of a system.
Would it be fair to say they're like the last old school team in that regard?
Kind of. I mean, we could see another team like them.
Most teams were way more reactionary and draft focused, and that was because the game incentivized that. Nothing other than that, right?
I think the game maybe incentivizes a little bit more, but also you need a team with players on it that have a skill diff, honestly. No one likes to hear that, but you need some sort of skill diff that you can be confident in and you can go back to execute that. Because it does put onus on you. It means you have to think more and you have to be more on point and you have to be able to execute a wider array of stuff, which strains your skill capabilities. So
you can't be the best at everything in Dota.
Exactly.
There's too many things to be good at.
You kind of need some generational players, like that LGD who was also in this category. Man, that team was stacked, right? OG who was in this category, they were fucking stacked. Like Wings, fucking stacked at the time. So you can't just be some mid-tier team and do this and succeed. It's you're better off just playing a system until you get good enough. And even then, a really strong system can just prevail because it frees up a lot of your thinking ability to do other stuff, which is powerful in Dota. Like, we don't see Spirit win every event, right? Some events they crash out because I think it is a bit harder for them to be consistent with this idea than some of the teams that just play the same way every time.
Okay.
So, other words, that's a 20-minute discussion on why Quinn's fucked.
or why it will be such a great story when Gladiators makes it back to the top, right?
Same with Liquid. I mean, I think Liquid's also kind of in this category, to be honest. They need to figure out how to make their side lanes do a lot more, because the difference between Nisha and Quinn in theory is that Nisha is
Has a broader
a
skill
more
set.
he's a more rounded player, I guess.
Sure.
Like Nisha's, I guess his claim to fame is he's the most rounded player of all time.
Yeah, you can pretty much play anything, do anything,
Yeah.
sort of deal. Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter what the meta is for them on mid. They need to figure it out for their side lanes. And if that's just putting Nisha on an island, picking him some farming heroes, letting him do whatever, I think that's quite good for them. But they can't be losing their off lane every fucking game.
It sounds like it would all of a sudden make this new Liquid look incredibly scary, because Mickey is such an aggro carry that it worked because they had 33 more farming offlaner. But if they're going to have double aggro side laners, then your mid takes more of the farm. I mean, that does sound like on paper it works really well for
That's
this
what I think they should be doing.
patch.
They should be picking this guy, Leshrac, Storm, Invoker, like Mag mid, whatever the fuck he's gonna like scale and carry the game with, right? Shaker. It can be fighters too. Ember, these heroes can do it, but he's just gonna be really fat. And just have two side laners that just win the fucking lane, play the Bristles, play the Enigmas, play the Furions, play the Monkey Kings, play the Razors, win the fucking side lanes, push the fucking lanes, and take the fucking tier 1 towers. And don't worry about going mid for this guy, because I don't think it fucking matters. You know? On average. That's my opinion.
All
I could
right.
be wrong,
Well,
though.
we made it an hour. There you go. Remember when we put this podcast together? Oh, it could be like 20 minutes.
Nobody wants a 20-minute episode, Austin. Like, 20 minutes. Nobody finishes banging their wife in 20 minutes. Okay, you need like an hour. You need to get some juice in there. You know what I'm saying? That's when people listen to this podcast.
I don't think you know what you're talking about.
We have a lot of
Avery.
we have a really successful viewers watch his podcast, so they need some juice, because they're getting in their bed at night. They turn this on, turn to their wife. It all works out. Their eighth girlfriend.
You're saying
like
that the dulcet sound tones of our voices is what sets the stage for lovemaking.
It invigorates the spirit. That's what this podcast is all about.
All right. Well, thank you for watching another episode of Not for Broadcast. Hope you came.